Okay, let me see if I can gather my thoughts about this story and give it to you real quick, as quickly as possible, but yet getting all the details in there. Okay, so when Lance and I got together, I was on, I want to say it was just antidepressants and possibly something for the ADHD. I had gotten on it in college. It was helping me study. I had made Dean's List. Like when I focus, I'm really smart, but because I have ADHD, it's hard for me to focus. I mean, I am really smart, but I just can't stay focused. Like I get super, super bored with stuff so easy. And so, anyway, everything was good. We got married in 96, and while we were dating, Lance's parents and Lance were kind of condescending about the medication, like, you don't need that, and blah, blah, blah. So, prior to us getting married, I stopped taking it, and I felt really sad about it. I was just like, this was helping me be my best self, and so I just really felt like I should take it. And then when we told Lance's mom, she was just like, oh my God, that's so great. I'm so happy for you. And so she assumed that this was a good thing for me. And it just really made me think, like, why would you be so happy about something that makes me sad? Like, it was a real disconnect with Lance's mom. And this was before we got married. Like, there were red flags. But anyway, we got married and I was off the meds. And then I went through my pregnancy with Trevin, and that was good. Had Trevin, and then we were done. Like, I don't remember us. We never talked about having another baby. Anyway, fast forward to the day that I went to jail. Lance was deployed, and there were issues with money because we were arguing about money. I was just buying things that we needed, but he's very like, he doesn't need things like cookies or Coke. Like, he drinks nothing but water. He doesn't really eat sweets. He eats like maybe 1 or 2 meals a day, and because I would spend like $100 on groceries, he would be like, what? $100? Like, you're going insane. Like, he thought it was crazy. And I'm like, I've got to feed me, a teenager. Cody was, well, he was 11, 12, a baby. Like, there were diapers. Like, I have never been outrageously spend outrageously. And to be honest, after Lance and I split up and he married Nancy, he even told the boys a couple of times that he missed me and he missed how frugal I was. He got it eventually that I am actually very frugal. But before, he didn't get it. Anyway, there were money issues. And on this particular day, I was in the backyard. I had on a white tank top with no bra, which wasn't a big deal. I was just hanging out with my kids. And, Brandon Devlin, who was one of Cody's friends, and they had like, and I wouldn't let Cody hang around with him anymore because he was doing some really rebellious stuff and getting in trouble. And they were still really young, like not even 14 yet because Grant wasn't born. So 13, 12, 13, it was right in there. Anyway, Brandon's walking, we live on a corner lot. Brandon's walking past our yard on the other side of the fence down the street, and we're on the trampoline. And I've got Trevin out there, and he's just a baby. He's not even 4 yet. He was just like 2 or 3. And for some stupid reason, Brandon picks up a bottle that was laying on the side of the road in the grass, and he chunks it at Trevin, literally missing his head by inches. And I was like, boy, have you lost your fucking mind? Like, I'm about to come over that fence and beat your ass. He thought it was so funny. He was laughing his ass off. And I was ready to kill this kid, like literally kill him. Anyway, I had to calm myself down because I was already stressed out about what was going on with Lance. I went inside and I was freaking out. Well, this is the time that Paul, who they lived in the curve of the cul-de-sac. We lived on the corner. We were friends with them. His mom is Kim, and Kim's boyfriend was Johnny Alanis, and I went to junior high with Johnny Alanis, and he wasn't a good kid then, but he was very hot, and Kim was gorgeous. She had had a boob job. She was this tiny little thing with long hair and giant boobs. She owned her own business because her parents owned the business, and they helped her. It was, what do you call it, HVAC, air conditioning, heating. And so she was raised around that, and so they helped her open her own business. And so she had her own, and she like led all these guys. So she was a strong person, and she was a good person, but she was kind of fucked up. There was some shit going on with her. I mean, she was dating Johnny Alaniz, who was a mess. So she just liked the wrong kind of guys. But I do too, so no judgment. And long story short, Kim and we're not friends. Like, we haven't talked in years, but we parted on good notes. Anyway, and I'll get to that later. So anyway, her son's name was Paul. His name is Paul Ware. And he's kind of gay, kind of fruity and sensitive, and I don't judge him for that. I'm just saying he had a real opposite personality as Brandon, and he was also Brandon and Cody's age, but Kim was real, like, they're like super Christians, like trying to be super Christians, and she was just like, oh, well, they don't go to church, like, you can't hang out with them. Like, they were more judgmental than we were. Anyway, I'm getting off track. Anyway, this was the moment when I'm frustrated with Lance and Brandon. This was the moment that Paul decided to come over with some friend and be all, hi, how are you? Like, you open the door and he's just like being his bubbly, like, this is my friend, blah, 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 blah. And I said, Paul, like, I just really can't deal with this right now. I wasn't rude. I set a boundary that I could not deal with this. And he flipped the fuck out. He was like, well, you're just being rude, because he was very, very spoiled. Kim and her parents had a lot of money, okay? We're talking 2 HVAC companies, okay? Like, they were fucking loaded. Their house, they had done all these remakes, and Kim, I think, was an only child, and Paul was the only grandchild. So let me tell you, when I say this kid was spoiled, this kid is spoiled. Anyway, he was not used to being told no. And so when I asked him that, please go home, I cannot deal with you and your friend right now, he lost it. So anyway, earlier that day, I need to backtrack and expound on the Lance situation, because earlier that day, Lance had told me that he doesn't want me having control of the money anymore. He was going to give all the money to his parents, and they would decide how much money I got. And I was like, no, I'm not answering to your parents. Like, that's fucking bullshit. And his mom ended up calling me, and I was like, this is not going to happen. Like, it was just a big argument. And I remembered on that day was the day I threw our cordless phone at our dry erase board and put a hole in it, and I called Patty a bitch. I was like, that fucking bitch. That was the end of that conversation. Threw the phone. Of course, Trevin and Cody were there. Cody, like I said, he was about 11 or 12. Trevin was about 2 or 3. Anyway, so that was the beginning of that day. Then the Brandon thing happened. Then the Paul thing happened. And I was just like, man, fuck this day. Like, it was just so bad. Everything was getting on my nerves. I was pissed. I couldn't see a means to the end. Anyway, so Paul goes over to his mom. And I guess his mom was having a bad day too. And up until this point, we had been friends. But she comes out into the cul-de-sac yelling and screaming, Stacy, get your ass out here. You are not going to be rude to my child. I will beat your ass. Just mouthing off. And so at that point, because I had been having a bad day, I was just like, you know what? I would love to beat the shit out of something. Like, you're a tiny little person, and I am literally going to go out there and beat the shit out of you, because I'm so frustrated with everything, and I'm just not going to put up with you, or like totally not dealing with anything correctly. So Kim and I got in a fist fight in the cul-de-sac. And at one point, she grabbed my shirt. I had fistfuls of her hair, and my boob came out. And I don't know how it got broke up or what, but I went back in my house, and I was crying. I was sobbing, crying. Okay? So this is where it gets super intense. I called 911 because I knew I was not okay, and I needed help. And I reached out to, I don't want to start crying. I reached out to who I thought was safe, to keep me safe and to keep the people around me safe, because I didn't feel okay. Like, I felt like I was having a nervous breakdown at that point, and it gets worse. At that point, I was at my wit's end, and it gets worse from here. So I was crying, and this is what happened when I called 911. It hung up on me. Probably like 5 times. I kept calling 911, and I could not get through to 911. And I don't know if that was the universe just trying to say, no, you need to go to jail. Like, I don't know why I couldn't get help that day. But it really sucks. And it was really weird, because usually you can just get right through to 911. And for some reason, I swear I'm not making this up, I could not get through. Anyway, During that time, I was laying in the kitchen floor crying. I don't even know where the kids were. My poor kids who were traumatized, Cody especially. Trevin doesn't really remember it, but anyway, Johnny comes home and he's mad because Kim and I got in a fight. Well, Johnny's way more of an instigator. And so he comes over and he is severely instigating me. He is literally on my front porch, knocking on my front window. He was calling me a whore, a bitch. He said, you know, the whole neighborhood knows that you fuck everything in this neighborhood, which was not true. Like, the whole 18 years I was married to Lance, I never did anything with anyone, not even close. I went out with my friend Joel once, and Lance freaked out, so I stopped hanging out with Joel. And I've never cheated on anybody, ever. So that was so far from the truth. Like, but he was literally instigating me, and he was like, come on out here, I'm going to beat your ass. You know, you blah, blah, just saying the most ugly, horrible things, and I was already at wit's end. So I just needed him off my property, and the only way I knew to get him off my property was to get our gun. So we had a gun, and I opened the front door, and I was like, you need to get off our fucking property, like, you need to leave. And I felt like the gun would make him leave, but nope. It was Johnny Alaniz, who was on drugs and who was psychotic, and he fucking bucked up to the gun. So that freaked me out even more. And I wasn't trying to kill Johnny Alaniz in any way, shape, or form. I was trying to get him off the property. So I ended up shooting it was a rifle, just a little rifle. I shot it up into the air. But because it went off and because the neighbors were all watching, they were like, she's got a gun. She's got a gun. And all of a sudden, I'm the bad guy because I was trying to protect myself. And that's the story of my fucking life, is I'm always end up being the bad guy because I try to protect myself. And it just, oh man, it fucking sucks. Anyway, I don't know how, but I know that I put the gun on the shelf, shut the door. I think Johnny left. I don't know. Anyway, I went back inside. I was crying. I was trying to call 911. So anyway, finally, police officers show up. And I'm just like, oh, thank God. Thank God. I'm so glad they're here. Like, they're going to fix everything. So this is the moment where I realized that police officers are not your friends. They are 100% your enemy, and they cannot be trusted in any way, shape, or form. But this was the first time I realized that. It gets worse from there. The second time I went to jail, they did the same thing to me. Anyway, so I opened the door thinking they're going to fix the situation, and they grabbed me by my shirt, by my hair, by my arms, clawing at me, threw me onto the porch or the ground, whatever, had their knee in my back. I'm face down in the ground, and I'm like, what the hell is going on? And when I glanced up, they literally have guns pointing at my head. Like I'm the criminal or something. When I was just literally trying to figure out how to take care of myself, because I didn't know how to take care of myself. And anyway, they took me to jail, and I was just like, I don't know what's happening. And the next morning, a detective came in, they came in and they dragged me out of the cell, and I wasn't at all belligerent. I was sensitive and emotional and confused. Why is this happening? Like, I don't understand why, when my most vulnerable moment of my entire life up until then, and I call for help, and Lance isn't there to help me, my parents aren't really there to help me, there's nobody there. And when I call the police, like, they make me into the criminal and then traumatize me further. Like, what the hell? Anyway, the detective pulls me into the room, and he sits me down at a table. And the first thing he says to me, and I will never forget these words. I don't know his name, but I wish I did. I'm sorry. This is hard to tell because it is so emotional. But he said, Miss Braswell, I interviewed all your neighbors regarding the incidents that happened. And I just want you to know that I've come to the conclusion that you're not a bad person. You just had a bad day. I started crying because I was like, oh my God, that's true. Thank you for figuring that out. And he said, we're not going to hold any charges against you. We understand, everything that happened. And they let me out. And it was hard. I mean, there was trauma. Like, I'm never going to get past, I don't want to say I'm never going to get past that trauma, because it is in the past, and I'm okay. I'm learning from all this stuff. But it did traumatize me. Anyway, when I got home, I got to tell you this, how Patty and Russell and my sister threw me under the bus. So while I was in jail, Lance was not here. So it was my mom, my sister, and Patty and Russell trying to get me out of jail. I had called my mom a million times and talked to her about it. And anyway, my mom told me that while they were waiting for me for the time to go and bail me out or whatever, she said she was sitting at the table with Patty and Russell and my sister, and Patty and Russell and Elena were all saying, oh no, she needs to stay in jail. We're not getting her out of jail. She's just a spoiled brat, and she needs to learn her lesson, and she needs to stay in jail. And my mom said at the end of the table, and she said, I don't care if y'all help me or not. I'll figure out how to get down there, but I'm getting my daughter out of jail. She's not staying in there, and I don't care what any of you think. And see, that's the kind of mom I am. Like, it doesn't matter what my kids do. I will always have their back. That's the kind of loyalty that I aspire to for my children and my loved ones. And my mom taught me that. She always had my back. It doesn't matter if I was right or wrong. She had my back. And, to be honest, Patty and Russell and Boo, they were wrong, because I had already learned my lesson. Trust me. The minute I was on the ground, on the floor with the guns in my head, was the minute I was like, what the fuck? Like, anytime I would get mad after that, red flags would go off. Like, I get it now. I understand jail, and I understand how distrustful cops can be. Anyway, so there's that. And then they let me out, and I was home with the kids. And Kim came over, and she was crying, and she hugged me, and she apologized. She said she knows Johnny's an asshole, and he should have never done that, and that it was all his fault. And she hated me like... it's funny, but it's sad too. She hated me like $5,000 in cash. I shit you not. She said, I don't know if this is going to be enough, but it should be enough to take care of like your court fees and everything, because it was Johnny's fault. You should not have to pay for any of that. And she took full responsibility for Johnny's whatever, the way he contributed to all that, and she paid for all of the court fees and everything. And so, yeah, that was that. So anyway, Lance ended up coming home. I don't remember the details about him coming home. I was just always so happy when he left, even early on. And when he came home, I know that he came home shortly after that. I don't know if he got to come home because of that, or he chose to, or what, but I remember him taking me to see Paul Looney. Yeah, he was a guy we went to church with, but he was like a psychologist or whatever. And we went through the whole thing, telling what happened, and he put me on antidepressants, mood stabilizers. And I remember laying on the bed and Lance and I talking, and us trying to have a conversation. And again, it was the same thing with his mom. We were trying to have a conversation, and because I was on the medication, I was just like, there were no thoughts in my head. Like, it was nothing. And usually I was just like, blah, 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 talking a lot, too much probably. And I remember us laying on the bed, and he was just like, this is nice. And I had the thought in my head, I was like, it's nice because I'm on drugs. So before, you were happy because I got off of them. I wasn't on a mood stabilizer the first time. But now that I'm on a mood stabilizer, my personality is dumbed down, and you're enjoying it because you've got your dumbed down wife. So it was always drugs or no drugs. It was always about them having some kind of control over me. Anyway, that was when we ended up getting pregnant with Grant. We didn't plan on it. It was an accident. And the minute I found out I was pregnant, I stopped everything cold turkey, and that sent me into a really bad depression for months. And I remember having, this is bad. I mean, I look back on it, I think it's bad, but there was the bed pushed up against the wall, the window, and then there was a space, probably only about 4 or 5 feet wide, between the wall and the side of the bed. And I had covers and a pillow on the floor. I was going through this, I think they call it disassociation. I talked about it with the neurologist who, she diagnosed me earlier this year, where you don't feel like you're worthy of things. Like, when I was younger, I used to not allow myself to sleep on my bed when I was self-loathing, because I'd be like, you don't deserve a bed, you're sleeping on the floor. Like, it was like, it's weird. I would also cut my fingernails back until they bled as punishment. I would claw my face. Like, I did really weird things when I was a kid because I didn't feel like, there was just something inside of me that wanted to hurt myself. And it's always been there. You know, I've struggled with suicidal thoughts, and thank God for my kids that I'm healing from that, because I just can't do that to them or Emma. And I'm just so blessed that my kids are the kind of men who say loving, empowering things to me and not hurtful things. You know, like Cody always says, Emma needs her grandma. And so things like that keep me going. Anyway, I built a home in this space, and I had a TV, and I had my movies. This was, I might have had a cell phone, but it didn't have the internet on it. I don't think we had internet. We might have, but anyway, I don't remember getting on it. At that time, it was like 2 or 3 months. All I did was eat, and the hole under the bed was filled with garbage and dishes. I would just push them under the bed, and I would just sleep and watch a movie and sleep and watch a movie. I was going through such a deep, deep depression, and that was just the only way that I knew how to function. And I literally watched so many movies in the corner over there, and I don't remember Lance. I don't remember taking care of my kids. I don't remember anything about that time. And it was months. It was probably 2 months that I was over there. And then there was, I don't even know how to explain this, other than I had the computer under a fucking table. And I know this is why Lance probably thought I was crazy. Like, if he's neurotypical, he surely doesn't get this. But I don't know why I had the computer under a table. But the computer was under a table, and it was one of the big monitors, you know, that were square, and keyboard. Like, it was weird. It was a big, fat, you know, clunk, clunk, clunk keyboard. I mean, it was around 99, 2000. Anyway, I remember being there. And then I spent time on the internet. This was Pregnant with Grant. And then I remember the last part of the pregnancy, having it up on a desk finally, and Trevin sleeping in the bed next to me. And that's when Trevin got German measles while I was pregnant with Grant. And we had to go through that. But that's the first time I remember Trevin was at the end of my pregnancy. I was really big and pregnant. And I remember Trevin being in the bed with the measles next to me. But I don't remember anything about Trevin. I know he was there, but I was just in a whole other world for so much of that pregnancy. Anyway, Grant turned out, I think he turned out okay. We'll jump ahead. I'm already at 23 minutes, sorry. We'll jump ahead to the second time I got arrested. Grant was bigger, but I don't remember what year it was. There was a can of green beans. I was depressed, of course, and I had opened a can of green beans, and the lid was pulled up, so it was jagged around the side, and I was eating green beans out of a can because I do weird shit when I'm really depressed. And Lance had somehow picked a fight with me, and I was just like, are you kidding? And I remember slamming that can of green beans down, and I still have the scar on my finger. I don't know if you can see it. You see that little curvy scar right there going through my tattoo? Sliced my finger open on that can, and I'm holding it, and we're arguing. And then I was telling him, I don't want to live anymore. I'm depressed. Like, this is too much. You're making things harder on me. Like, I was just ready to end it all. Of course, I wasn't going to. I only got close 1 or 2 times, but I think it was just a cry for help more than anything. Anyway, he was like, well, if you're going to do that, I'm going to call the cops. And I'm like, why would you call the police? Like, you know, they can't be trusted. And he was like, you need help. I'm calling the police. And I'm just like, how are the police going to help? Anyway, I was just like, I'm not going through that again. So I left. And the kids were like, Mom, take me with you. Take me with you. So I had Trevin Grant in the car with me. I don't know if Cody went or not. I don't think so. Anyway, I didn't have on shoes. I didn't have on a bra. And I didn't have my glasses. But I got in the car and I drove away as quickly as I could with the kids, and we just drove around, and I was crying, but they were okay. I wasn't driving fast. I did have a cell phone. I called Patty Braswell and talked to her about it, because that was a common thing with, you need to do something with your son. She mostly tried to keep the peace, but in the end she was a traitor. But I think she tried hard to be a good Christian, and sometimes she could diffuse the situation. Anyway, I talked to Patty Braswell, and then the police officers called me, and they're like, Miss Braswell, we know that you're with the kids. Are you safe? Are the kids safe? I'm like, yeah, everything's fine. I feel better now. Like, I talked to my mother-in-law. Everything's fine. And they're like, okay, well, can you meet us at your house? Because we're here with your husband, and we just want to make sure that we need to do a welfare check on the kids, make sure the kids are safe. And I was like, yeah, sure. Wrong move. Learned for the second time in my life, don't ever, ever, ever trust a fucking cop. Do not trust anything that comes out of a cop's mouth. They're evil to the core. So I pull back in the driveway with my kids in the car. Everyone's safe. I feel like everything, hey, the situation's going to be good. Step out of the car. Poof, poof, handcuffs immediately behind my back. I'm like, what the fuck? Like, what are you doing? I think they arrested me for interrupting a 911 call. Because when Lance was trying to call them, I was like, no, don't call them. Like, hang up. I was trying to make him stop doing that. And I left. And somehow that was a crime. Anyway, the kids were crying. They were like, no, don't take my mom to jail, blah, blah, blah. And I was like, go get Dad. Go get Dad. He's in the house. Go get Dad. And at this point, I'm feeling better. And he comes out and he was like, what are y'all doing? And they were like, we're taking her to jail for interrupting a 911 call. And he's like, I'm not even upset about that. Like, no, you can't take her to jail. And they were like, yes, sir, we can. You need to go back in the house. And he's like, no, I'm not going to let you take my wife to jail. So on a good note, Lance was trying to take up for me, but he ended up getting himself in trouble because they kept telling him to go back in the house. And he said he wasn't going to. He felt like he was stronger than the law. So they took his ass to jail too. And I actually thought that was funny because I felt better about the situation. After I talked to Patty and I got away from him for a little while, which became the course for the next 15 or so years, was just get away from him and go talk to someone until I feel better. That's kind of how I've learned to deal with things. But I think it's good that Lance did end up going to jail because he really needed to go to jail to kind of put him in place. But anyway, that was the second time I went to jail. And then somehow he got the charges dropped and we got out easily. It wasn't that big of a deal. But yeah, 28 minutes. And there's that story of the 2 times I went to jail. And there was something else I was going to tell you, but I don't remember. Anyway, I love you. Bye.